In this tutorial, I will help you and show you the start point of mastering PowerApps Component Framework with just a little of TypeScript and React framework. You will be able to build the components you like precisely. With this tutorial, you will start developing the component you like. We will dive in the very small detail as possibly as we can, just for you to be able to build and create that component you like. If you follow this tutorial until the end, I assure you that you will change your thoughts about what PCF is or could do for you. So let's get started. I'm here now on my desktop. I'm going to create a new folder. I will call it PCF Gallery. I will just drag and drop it in my Visual Studio Code. Once this opened in my Visual Studio Code, I will open a new terminal, and on my terminal I will just copy this command from Microsoft Document and paste it here. I will explain. So this command initialize our PCF with two libraries, React and Fluent UI. When it comes to templates, I will use the filled one, but don't worry, we can change that in our code later. For the namespace, I will pick ML as usual, and when it comes to its name, I will pick a meaningful one, like custom gallery. For example, when this done, we just hit enter, and npm will install all the packages needed for our development. Unless we need other packages later, we can install them one by one. If that's the case, I will show you, so don't worry. Once npm finishes installing all the packages, we will find on the left side of our Visual Studio Code all the folders and files needed for our PCF development, starting with control manifest. This is the most important file in our PCF framework. Inside it, we can define our properties, our inputs, our output, the resources here, library, and the entry point, of course, index.ts. As you can see, this is the property that is defined by default in this file. When I navigate to this file here generated by the compiler, I will find these two interfaces for my inputs and outputs. What is interfaces? Interfaces, you can consider them just as a contract between you and the compiler. You say to the compiler, this is what I will provide from now on. If you find any difference between what I provide and this contract, you just do an error. I will move now to index.ts. Here, where our logic is processed, I will remove all the comments inside this file so we can better understand and see what is in here. All of these comments are not needed and we can remove them. So this is the class constructor, and this constructor, then we have init method. This is behind the initialization of our PCF, and this update view is the method that is behind all the updates we see on the screen, then get outputs to send back data to PowerApps. Now update view, create a React element and render a hello world React component with props passed to this component. Inside it, we find the interface, the props interface, and it displays hello this.props.name. I will come back later to this and explain more. So let me navigate to package.json and see what we have. The most important thing is for me now is these commands here: build to build our code, and start to start our code on local server, and start watch to start our code on the local server while watching the update on real time. Let me just run this npm run start semicolon watch. This will start our local server, and the browser, as soon as we make changes, will show those updates on real time. In our update view, we see that it renders a React component hello world and passed to that React a props. In this props, we have this object named .PowerApps, and that is what we see on our browser now. If I go navigate to this React component, I will find that we have this hello, the props of this component, React component dot name, which is behind what we see on our browser. But if, for example, I type something in the property field and I would like to see that thing on the browser instead of this PowerApps. For example, if I type PCF developer and I would like to see it displayed on the screen. To understand, let me first get this PCF developer in our console. So I will use this context to retrieve the property value, then console it, display it on the console first to see if I really receive something. So here I will type just console.log, then context. I will log the context dot parameters, text dot parameters dot simple property dot row. This, if everything goes normal, good, I should get in the console the value I have in property field. Let me just go to the console, and here we go. We have PCF developer in the console. So now the question, how I can get this value displayed on the screen. It is as simple as just you create a variable, const, example name, then assign to this variable the value of our property, context.parameter.simpleProperty.row, and replace this string PowerApps by the name. It throws an error because we cannot assign string to a string that could be null. If I add this exclamation point known as null assertion operation, everything's go good, and here we go. Hello, PCF developer. Now, I have another question. How can I send back data to PowerApps? As you can see, we have these get outputs. These get outputs is behind what we send back to PowerApps, what PowerApps receives from PCF. I will add define a variable, our class, private output, and it's of type string. I will go back to update view method and assign to this class variable the value of my property, of the input property. Okay, this dot output class variable, I will assign to it the name, and of course I should add this exclamation point because class variable is a string and it cannot be assigned a null value. So whether I make the class variable nullable and this exclamation mark will be not needed, or I make the class variable as a string non-nullable, and in this case I should add the exclamation mark at the end of value. But the better choice is to make the class variable, in this case the class variable nullable, and add this exclamation mark. Now in my get puts, I will assign the property the value of the class variable. Simple property will be assigned this dot output. It threw an error because here it could be null in the interface. But if we add this non-null assertion operator, everything is go good when as soon as I save, nothing changes. I still have data inputs, but I need data outputs. Isn't that right? So here is the point. I need to notify the framework that I have output changed. So just enter this assignment to my class variable. I will add this dot notify output changed and save. Boom, here we go. Our data outputs get displayed and it received exactly what we insert in the input property, because here is the overview. We get the input value. We assign that input value to a variable in our class. We get that variable value and assign it to our output property. As soon as we do that, we notify the PCF that we changed output, and the output data get displayed. That is it. I hope this now is understood, because now it's time to move to the next step. In the component folder, I'm going to create a new file called types, and this file will include the interfaces I have. First interface is the user interface. As I said, interfaces are just some contract between you and the compiler. Understand it as simple as this. My user interface has ID as a string. You can set it number, but I prefer string. Now every user has a name and a profile. Name, of course, is of type string, and a profile image, URL, but it is a string here. The second interface is the tasks. Each user has some tasks, and I will export the task interface, and each task has some properties, and the first property is its ID, which will be of type string, of course, and the user ID. And here is the relationship between them, because it could be null, of course, because there sure will be some tasks that will not be assigned. So, and its title, which is of type string, then the category, that must be one of these specific strings, ready, in progress, review, and define. Then we have estimate. This is the estimated time for all the tasks. And state use should be one of these, also specific string, done or not done. And we have estimated hours, the hours number needed for the task, and it is of type number, and estimate and spent hours, the number of hours spent for each task. These are two interfaces I need for now. Let's move to the next step. I'm going to create a new file called taskcard.tsx. TSX is just a combination of JavaScript, TypeScript, and HTML. Just type TS and this snippet code will show up. Just a plugin you can integrate to a Visual Studio Code. I will make some modification to just get this. This is my task card component and a row function. Inside this div, I will write task card. Then I will navigate to index, and you can see that in our update view, React render this hello world component with its props. Instead of all of this, I want to render task card component I have just created. As soon as I type it, it gets imported. We should import it to index. So when I save this, I should have task card displayed on the screen. Good. Let's move to the next step. Instead of this div, I will now start creating my card. So here I will add a div of class task card. Inside this div, I will add another div of class task card header. Inside this header, I will add persona component. Persona component, it's pre-built component imported from Fluent React. And as you can see, Visual Studio Code underlines the packages from which we import persona, meaning it's not yet installed. To install it, we just open a new terminal and we type npm install and the name of the package. Just we hit enter and it's get installed in few seconds. Now as the package is installed, persona component has some parameters we should provide. Now the first parameter is image URL, then text and size, and some styles. As soon as we save our test card, the image gets displayed with the text we provided. Now I'm going to add an icon to be just next all of this. It takes some props, icon name, double chevron down, and I will give it class name. When I save, we see it here just on the screen. If I change the icon name with double chevron up and save this, I get the double chevron up displayed. Now I'm going to add another div of class task count. Inside it we'll have other divs. I'll add another div of class count, duplicate it and change the class to label. We'll duplicate all of this, and instead of count here done, then label, keep it as it is. As a count I will add 10, as count done 5, and for label not done, and done will be 5. So here I will write just done and save this. Once I save, test card will display that, and I need now to add some CSS. I will create a file called taskcard.css, and for the sake of time I will just paste CSS, but never forget to import it to your component, to our component now, task card. Once you import the CSS file and you save, you will see how better the card is now. I will just add some opacity to the label, and as you can see, its header has been developed. We need to move to the next step now. In task card, I will add another div just under the header, and this time this div will have class name of circular progress circular. Inside it, I will add circular progress bar component imported from React circular progress bar. I should install the package by typing npm install React circular progress bar in the terminal, and once it is installed, this red line will disappear. I will give it default value 16% of tasks done, because the first circular progress bar for tasks done and not done. The second, I should duplicate it because I need a second circular progress bar for the spent hour. Let us set its value to 50, so it's 50% of spent hour. And when I save, I will have these two circular bar, but they are too big. If I go to CSS file and add some CSS for their divs, I will have both of them in a better state. If I now I need to add the progress, horizontal progress bar. So between them, I will add another div of class progress bar. Before I start developing inside this div, I need to add some logic. Card interface expect two properties. First one is an array of task objects, and the second is a user object. We just import them and we pass them to task card component. Once they are passed our component here, I need to go to index and also pass them here. I will remove all of these lines, and because I don't need them anymore, and create a new variable const user of type user object, and then of type user, and then some default values. Also the same thing with tasks, an array of tasks of type task, and I will give it a default values. I will pass them to task card and its props as it's expected by its interface. Now I will save and navigate back to task card. When I navigate to task card, I will now use dynamic values instead of default values for image URL and text. When I save now, nothing will change because the default values are the same as the dynamic one. Now here I will add some logic. Just before we render the TSX, we will add category colors for all the colors I will use in this card. So this is an object of string keys and string values. Already I will give it this color, and if it is in progress, this color, and if it is review, this color. I'll also add here for each method to loop through the tasks that we receive in the component. And for each task, I will look if it is done. I will create a variable and increment it. I should first initialize it just before the method here, and I will also initialize tasks not done because I will need it. I will need another variables, and if it is done, increment task done. Let me just remove this, and else I will need another variables like estimated hours equals 0, and also spent hours equals 0. I will need another variable, but let me first move this up and continue my logic inside the for each method. So else if this will be this means I will increment task not done. And for estimated hours will be, of course, a number will be incremented for each task estimated hours, and spent hours will be incremented for each task spent hour. So now I need this variable to be initialized category counts because it will be an object. Inside it will have string keys and number values. The keys, of course, ready will be initial, has default value 0. In progress, its default value 0. All initialized to are set up to 0 as default value. If category for this task category different than undefined, different than undefined, So I will increment, in this case, I will increment the category property for this task category. Now I can come back to progress bar div and start developing inside it the horizontal bar. I will add here some tasks, an array of all the category types I may have, and I will loop through this array, and for each category I will calculate task count. So const task count equals all the tasks that I receive, and I will filter them for this category where task category equal category. Of course, if category is undefined, we pass. So task category does not exist. Else task category equal category. This will filter all the tasks where task category equal the category we are mapping. And this will return an array. I need its length. Now I will need to calculate the ratio of each category tasks compared to all the tasks we have. So to do that, I need first to initialize the variable total tasks to get all the tasks number. And when I have this, as soon as I have it, I can start calculate the ratio of each category tasks. So const with percent total task. If total tasks greater than 0, then I can calculate ratio. So task count divided by total tasks and multiply with 100. If not, 0. This will give me ratio of each category task. But we are not done yet. We need to render here tasks for each category task ratio. For that, I will render this div of class name progress bar segment. Of course, its key category. Then in style property, we can display now the color and the segment for each category tasks. So in width, I will add the width percent. Also for the color, the background for the div, well, if the category equal undefined, then it will be then the color gray. Else we'll have the category color for this category. If we save this, but before we can navigate to CSS file and add some CSS and save it, we now can see that we have this. But let me just change the value for circular progress to be dynamic, because as you can see, it's default value. So here I cannot, because I need to move total task before rendering the TSX. So here we go. If total tasks be greater than 0, then total task done divided by total tasks. This gives me the ratio of total tasks done. And for text, the same thing. just display the percent of tasks done, but it is 0 because the only task we pass as props, its status is not done. If I change this to done and save, it will be 100%. And let me just set this to not done, and so you can't test it. Okay, so if we go to the other progress, circular progress bar, here we need the value of spent hour, and here we go, because in the only task we pass we have spent hour 0. Of course, now if I change, as you can see, the center text in circles, now we have to import React circular progress test style. Now let us display category tasks. Before that, I need to create a state. I will use state for that. So const category expanded, and its updater function set category expand. This is use state, and it is an object where keys are string and values are boolean, and it is empty for now. I will create a function called toggle category, and it takes category as an argument, say string, and it will update the category expanded state. It toggles the boolean value of the given category, but dash dot brief, that means it will keep the rest of the state and change it, and toggle the boolean value of the given category. That is it. Let us scroll down now and add some div tags. The first div will be of class hours info, inside which I will have a div of class name label, and it is for estimated text, and then span will be for displaying estimated hours. Then also we will have just under that all the categories displayed. So I will add this tsx code here. So this array of 3 category I have, and I will map through it. Let me fix this error, because paste it here, cut this and paste it here, and we need to add the key, will be the category, and inside this div I will add another div of class name category header. Its style, the color, of course, will be the category color, and on click we will now toggle the state, expanded state. So inside this div will display the category and the category counts between 2 brackets. If I save this, here we go, we have our categories and their counts between brackets. But I need to add an icon, so this icon, if the state is expanded, if the category expanded object value is Boolean for this category, so chevron up small, if not, chevron down small. If I save this, we will have, if I add CSS, we have this car. But I need also to expand category tasks because so far I cannot. What I can do to handle this logic is to add some TSX just here. If category expanded for this category is true, and only if it is true, I'm going to display its tasks. So I will filter all the tasks the component receives, where task category equal the category. Then we render a div of class task item, inside which we will add a span for task title, and we'll duplicate this one, and instead of title we add estimate. We'll give it class name, task time, and we save this, and here we go. I need to add some CSS. When I add CSS and save, it will look better. Now I will handle the global expanded state for the card. I will add expanded element here, expanded key, and its value Boolean. I will pass it to the component inside its props. Now I need to change the CSS. This will be dynamic for test card class name. When it is expanded, I will add expanded. If not, it will be collapsed. Now I should navigate to test card CSS and update CSS file. This test card, we should add test card class collapsed, and this class inside it max height should be 40 pixel. In index text, we should update the props we pass so it will be aligned with the props interface by adding expanded its value true. When I save this, I will see my card now, and if I set expanded false, it will be collapsed. But so you can see the other elements of the card are still here. I should update the test card CSS, and I will go to test card class and set max height to 1000 pixel, overflow hidden, and transition I will set it max height 0.3 second, easy in out, and box shadow 0.3 second, is in out. Also the border width 1 pixel, and solid RGB gray. And I will save this, and it's entirely collapsed now. For chevron, I want it up when it is expanded and down when it is not expanded. So I'll go to icon name. I will set these props to dynamic. When it is expanded, it will be double chevron up, else double chevron down. Save this, and here we go. Now we can test it from index by updating the expanded value. If I navigate to index and update the expand the value, set it to true and save, chevron up will show up and the entire card gets expanded. Now it is time to make users and tasks. Tables, dynamic tables. I will navigate to control manifest and change property. Instead of string or single text property, I will add dataset. First one, name. Its name is, I will need two dataset. First one, its name is tasks, and display name also task with capital letter. The second one, its name is user, and display name key is user. When I save this and navigate to manifest type, we'll find that input interface has been updated. Now I will navigate to index and delete the user default user value and task user value we had. Instead of this, I will create a user's object of keys with keys of string type and values of user object, and it is empty. Then I will create a tasks by user object with keys as string and values as an array of task object. It's empty, and below this I will start the logic. I want to get tasks and users values and append them accordingly to the objects I have created above. So to get users values, we should use context, and here context parameters users and context parameters users records exist. In this case, I will loop through these records for const ID in context parameters users records. In this case, I will get the value for each element in the record by creating a variable, let us call it record value, equal context parameters user records for ID key. So let me console the record value so you can understand what I mean. But before this, I should let React element render hello world component instead of task card for now, so there will not be an error in further steps. Record value has some methods. One of them is get value. With this method, we can get values. For example, now I want to get ID value as string. Also, I will get value name value and as string. I will save this. Now I need to provide tables. The tables, you will find a link in the description, and I will add tasks users, then tasks, and hit apply. When I hit apply and inspect, I navigate to console, I will find exactly each ID and under which we have the username. So let me delete this now and continue. I will now get the user ID. We'll store the user ID in a variable. So const user ID will record value get value ID as a string. Now I need to append the current user to users record. So for this current user ID key, I will append this user object as value. Once this done, just below we should append to task by user the object where this user ID is the key and empty array as value. In this array we will store the tasks for this user. Now I will start with tasks table with the same logic. We are going to retrieve tasks rows by typing if context dot parameters dot tasks. This is a condition. If these tasks exist and tasks rows also exist, then we'll loop through records for const ID in context parameters tasks records. Then we create a variable const record task value task value equal context parameters task records for ID key. Once this done, we get the user ID. Const user ID equal record task value get value of user ID as a string. If there is no user ID, if task is not assigned to a user, if user ID does not exist, or user ID or user ID does not exist, just continue. If not, we will initialize the task object, this task object for this ID. Once this done, we just get the array for this user from tasks by user object and push inside that array the task object we created above. Now I'm going to console users object and tasks by user object. Let me save this and upload task table. It is just CSV, and user table also CSV, and apply this and inspect. In the console I will find exactly users record and the tasks by user record. Now for each user, I need to display a card on which we have his info and his tasks. For that, I will create a new component called task board. Its props interface will be users and its value an array of user objects, and task by user, its value record and of string as key and array of task object as value. I can cut this props interface from here and paste it in types. Save, then navigate back to task board, import it to task board and save. For the tasks that will be rendered, I will render a div with a class name task board. Inside this div, I will map through users array. Of course, I should pass users and tasks, task by user, and here I will create a variable user tasks. Then I will get the tasks by user. I will return a task card component, task card component. It is the component we developed earlier, and it expects some props. First is its key, the key, of course, user ID. User props will be the user, and tasks will be the user tasks. Then expanded a Boolean value. For now, let us set it true and save. I navigate in text, and instead of hello world component, I will pass task board. For its props, users will receive the object dot values of users record, or tasks by user will receive tasks by user record. It still throws an error because in task board here we forgot to add s, and also in its props interface we should add that s. It still throws an error because also here in tasks, task by user, we should add that s. I will save this and I will get rid of this console log because we'll delete them because we don't need them anymore. We can test this now. I will upload users table, it's a CSV file, and also tasks table, it is also a CSV file. Once this uploaded, scroll down and click on this apply, and here we go. Our components are here for each user. Now I need to implement the expansion logic. When I click on this icon, I should expand and collapse the card. To do that, I will navigate to task board, and just before render this tasks, I will create a state variable using useState. So I will call it expanded user ID, and it is updater function set expanded user ID equal useState, and it is of type string that could be null. I will create a function, constant function. This function takes user ID as parameter, and it verifies if the user ID equal the state variable, it returns null. If not, it updates its value to be the user ID. And in this case, I will update expanded props for task card to be true whenever the expanded user ID equal user ID. This means exactly if this true, then return if they are equal, then return true. If not, return false. And also I will add another props which is on toggle function. And this props takes toggle expansion function as parameter. That means that we should update its props interface and add this on toggle here as another element to its object, and also pass the function to the component. And just here on the header for this icon, I will add this on toggle function. Now if I save this and test the card, I click on the icon, I can expand and collapse the card. Let me test this by uploading the tables, the CSV files, and click this apply. And here we go. We can expand and collapse our cards. Now it's time to build our PCF and build our solution and publish it to Dataverse. I will build the PCF, then I will create a folder called solutions, navigate to it, now initialize our solution. Once this initialized, I will add a reference to the PCF folder, then I will build the solution. Once this build, I can publish it. Once it's published, I will open SharePoint, and on the site I will create two lists. I will do that by using CSV from CSV. I already did that, and they are here, tasks and users. If I open users, and you can use randomuser.me website to get the profile images, then I will create a new Canvas app and import the PCF. We developed custom gallery. I will import it to the Canvas app, then I will insert it from insert code component. Then I will connect to my tool list in SharePoint. I will add a new data source, SharePoint. I will connect to the site of SharePoint, and then select the two lists, users and tasks. Then I need to create a two collections where I can store these lists. So when this screen is visible, I need to add this logic. I will create a collection called tasks items, in which I will store all tasks rows, all tasks list row, all tasks list rows. And I will do the same with users list also. So I will create another collection called users items, on which I will store all users SharePoint list rows. Once this is done, I will use these two collections as my PCF data inputs, and then I will create a new screen and add a button, and this button, when I click on it, I will navigate to screen 1, so the collection gets created, and it's the moment of truth. And here we are. We have our PCF as we expected. I need just to add a background for this screen so we can see it. I think we have finished the video today. So thank you so much.